Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you a living legend, an All-American, an icon, a man that's responsible for some of the biggest hits and greatest interceptions. Matter of fact, he's the founder of DBU, Jeremiah Castille. Welcome in, brother.
Thank you. I love that introduction, Justin. I love it.
I taught him everything he know.
Hey, Marvin, how you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you? How's the family?
Hey, everybody's well. We're doing well.
Jeremiah, he told EJ Jr. last week that he taught him everything he knew as well. So I guess everybody that comes on, he was the protagonist for everybody's career.
Well, EJ actually taught me, so
that's a great teacher. He
probably reminded me, you probably were nowhere even born by the time you right.
Yeah.
Well, before we kind of jump into it, how have you been? What's going on, man? What's going on with your foundation? Get us updated with what's going on in your world.
Well, I have entering my 21st year as chaplain for the University of Alabama football program. And that is, we have a football, I'm football chaplain, so as a title I go by, that would be it. So for the last 20 seasons, I have had the opportunity to work down on campus with our former players. And it has just been a joy for me and for Coach Saban to trust me with what we do with our players. And when that opportunity came 20 years ago, I was really honored to be able to do that. And one of the things we do is we do leadership development with our players. And so in the summers, we didn't with the last couple of COVID seasons, summers, but we actually have we do camps, and we have those guys go out and work our camps and teach middle schoolers and high schoolers. They coach them during our camps in the summer. We call them character camps. So that's what they're called. And we really stress for them to develop their character at a young age.
Man, that's awesome. That's a tremendous blessing. And you said 20 years. That's really all that time passed. I don't think you've aged, to be honest with you.
Why weren't you there about 22 or 23 years ago? Because then maybe you could have prayed over Dr. Fowler's hands and he could have actually done the job he was supposed to do.
Well, it was all, Marvin was all in God's timing. I was coaching high school in Birmingham, helping Tim and Simeon them win state championships at Briarwood Christian High School. So
yeah, Tim told me y'all was working out not too long ago, and I said, "Oh, so you got some 62-year-old knees?" I said, "Oh, we done figured out the problem now."
Yeah, and I got a bone to pick with you on that, Marvin, because
we like this part. Go right ahead.
Yeah, I was watching and Tim didn't even stand up for his pops. I'm like, Tim, man.
I was talking about you. I was talking about Tim with them bad knees.
Yeah, but when you said that age, I thought you was talking about me.
That's about Tim.
And I was sitting there thinking, Tim, you got to show him some about my Instagram workouts if you think I got 62-year-old knees.
There ain't nothing 62
that was
about you.
Strictly about Tim. Every time we talk, we always give each other a little bit of grief about our bad knees. And I told him, I got a new knee now. I'm out the club.
It's in the transfer portal. Matter of fact, the main person who was causing the most havoc was Steve Brown, and you noticed he's not here yet.
Yeah, he was.
He's giving Tim the hardest time about all that.
Yes, he sure was.
My knee is 9 weeks old, so we doing good. You know, we
Man, got a newborn, bro.
Hey, we still training them, still teaching them how to walk and do everything. We getting there, though.
Yes.
Well, let's go ahead and jump into it. Jeremiah,
I got a quick question.
Oh, go right ahead.
How's your wife doing? I know she.
Excellent. Man, I'm married. As they say, I outkicked my coverage. I married up, bro. I tell you what. Matter of fact, when I go and speak, and I'm speaking in places, I'm talking to men, I tell them, I said, I have 6 children. My wife has 7. Y'all will get that before the night over.
She take care of everybody.
And I said, I said, all you men out there now, you need to say amen on that one, because I said,
Amen.
You got a good family, bro. You know your wife helped raise you.
Hey man,
stay looking at me. Do you really need to be doing that? What do you mean? There's nothing wrong with this. It's always something.
It's very entertaining. But what I was going to say is, Jeremiah, can you talk about your life growing up in Phoenix City and what it meant for you when God opened the door for you to come to Alabama?
Woo, man, that's I feel like I'm one of the most blessed people in the world, just based on what I was born into, just the situation in my home with both my parents. Both my parents had about a 4th grade education, and I'm number 8 of 9. And domestic violence, alcohol, drugs was in that environment. That's what I was born into as the 8th of 9 children. And none of my siblings had graduated from high school. My dad, just with 4th grade education, just was, he very limited in what he could do growing, as he was a World War II vet. And I think my father suffered with PTSD back then, and we didn't know how to diagnose it, but it was just a very volatile household, very volatile. And the Lord just, at 13, all I can say is he intervened, really. And I came to the Lord at 13, a little church. You could take a rock and throw it and hit the church. Well, about 3 doors from my house. And that was really the turning point in my life. And during that, from 13 on, and very early on, what God was able to really just download it in my life was, hey, this situation is an opportunity for you to change. I want you to change this situation with your mom and your dad. With my mom really having an alcoholic problem that was out of control, that's what God put in my heart, that, hey, you can help change this. And what the game plan was that, hey, you can go to college on an athletic scholarship, football, and get a degree, get a good job, come back and change the circumstances in your home. So that's what I got busy with as a 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18-year-old. And then when the university came knocking with what I call the opportunity of a lifetime and saying, we want to give you a scholarship, I can still remember where I was at when I got my letter that they wanted to give me I was in the cafeteria at Central High School in Phoenix City. And I hung out in there all the time because I was trying to find a meal or two to eat.
The second best Central in Alabama?
Central of Phoenix City, yeah.
Central Tuscaloosa.
Yeah. And I got that letter. I opened it. Coach Wayne Trawick gave me that letter. I opened it. Man, I was just, yeah, man. I ran out of the lunchroom yelling all across the campus, Roll Tide, I'm going to Alabama.
As soon as you opened it, you knew.
Yes. And so I came over and visited. Alabama was playing, I think, Ole Miss, Mississippi State at that time. And man, I'm sitting there watching games and looking at the left cornerback position. That's what I was in high school. Saying, man, that's going to be my spot. Don McNeil was actually a starter at that time at that position. And I'm like, man, that's my spot. That's my spot right there, baby. That's going to be my spot. In 1979, I was a freshman. Ended up playing on the 79 national championship team as a freshman, and then started in 1980 as a sophomore, junior, and senior.
You know, one of the things I've always talked about, and people say I'm too critical when I talk about coaches and how they impact players, especially on the college level. Because here's the thing, you can attest to this. I'm pretty sure, like a lot of other people, most people who play football aren't playing for fun. They're playing to change their circumstances. Like you said, they come from different households. Like my dad dropped out in the 8th grade. My mom didn't go to college. So I knew, hey, this was my opportunity to get in a better situation than I was raised in. So a lot of people don't understand just how much of an impact sports and the game of football has on these people's lives, and they take it for granted. They don't think that these coaches play that much of a role in terms of their development and how they're going to end up. You know, yeah, you got the head coach, but the position coaches play more of a role in the growth and the development of those players than the head coach do.
Well, Maury, my freshman year, Coach Bill Oliver was my position coach. And all I can tell you, man, he broke me in. You know, the man, as a 2 days back in, but his way of coaching and the way he coached me. I played as a freshman, but you know what? I earned every bit of it. He didn't give me anything. And man, and when I tell you he was tough, but what happened was, I became tough. I took on his personality. And I look back at, now when all the years back, I'm like, I was 5'9", 155, 60 pounds, and I could dominate my position. I mean, and I look back, and it was what you're saying, Coach Bill Oliver. And after that, Coach Lewis Campbell. Man, both of those guys made me the player that I became, along with Coach Bryant. But the everyday work was those coaches. And, man, I tell you, they were tough, and they made me tough. And the results were, 4 years of playing there, I was an All-American.
All right, so you played back late 70s, early 80s. You went on to play in the NFL. Playing defensive back during that era, it wasn't much passing as it is today. So what would Mr. Jeremiah Castille look like playing in today's NFL and college football with all this passing, when you can't run up in that box and lay that wood like you want to?
Well, if you check the records, my senior year, I tied the record in interceptions at Alabama. And I kind of talk about this a little bit. And back then, they didn't count your bowl interceptions. So they don't count my bowl interception, which I had 5 bowl interceptions on top of the 16 regular season. So that's a total of 21 interceptions. So if you take 21 interceptions in a 4-year college career, that averages out to 5 interceptions per season. And I was taught to dominate my position. I don't, people today, I don't believe the receivers are faster. You can say I don't believe they're any. I can name some guys that were world-class sprinters that I played against, and those were my best games, number-wise. Willie Gault was a 1984 Olympic high hurdler for the University of Tennessee. I got my best numbers, 3 interceptions in that game. Mike Miller, Anthony Hancock, all those guys were SEC sprinters. And it was what I was taught, how to play the game, what was expected of me. And that is vital to really, when I think back to what, how I look at today, man, I'm thinking, well, what I was taught back then, oh my goodness, I leave up out of there with 4 or 5 interceptions a game. And
it seems like a lot of these guys, they don't have those expectations anymore. I think we were coached a lot differently than they are now. Well, not even so much as coach, but a different mindset. It seems like a lot of these guys don't want to be held accountable today. They all Instagram famous, they're all Twitter famous, so they think they can do whatever they want to do. So having your boys as great as they are and being raised the way you were raised, and the coaches you had, what are the lessons that you taught Tim, Caleb, and Simeon that made them into the great athletes and men that they are?
Well, the first lesson that I believe you teach any athlete that has potential is preparation. Teaching them to learn how to prepare. Winning in championships and execution at the highest level starts with preparation. So what is the workload that you're going to demand of the players? And so that's what I was taught. I was taught how to prepare, and the workload was man, I mean, when you lined up on Saturdays, you enjoyed the game. You had fun playing the game. Fun. To me, that you have and to me, the great coaches, even today, the game has to stay fun. Man, when we line up on Saturday, man, I'm like, whoo, baby, turn me loose, coach. It's been rough all week, man. Y'all done had your boy off of, behind the gate. Now you let me open the gate. Really, that was, and we had fun doing it because of just how rigorous the training, what the practices. So when you got out there on Saturday, what you were saying, man, hey, it's time to have fun now.
Yeah, very true. But when you're having that fun, a lot of times you're caught in the heat of the moment. You let your emotions sometimes get the best of you. We're playing Ole Miss in '99, and they throw a little screen pass, and the guy, he gets about 15, 20 yards, gain on the play. And I've ran all the way across the field. I'm like, I've ran about 30 yards to get here. I'm hitting somebody. And I get a personal foul for unnecessary roughness. Ellis Johnson looked at me like he wanted to do something to me like real bad. So what was your heat of the moment mistake that you might have made? Because everybody has something that they've done. And they'd be like, man, why did I do that?
Well, see, I'm just thinking about what you just said. We had this little code in practice. Hey man, that guy on the other side of the field, he was gonna hold him up for you when you was running up 30 yards. Hey, hold him up, bro. Don't put him down. Yes, hey, because I'm coming 30 yards. I can feel you. But to be honest with you, Marvin, Coach Bryant, the way we practiced and what was demanded of you, literally, you weren't going. You was afraid to even get a personal foul, coach. I'm being honest with you, bro. Man, bro, it never happened to me. I'm just being. I was just that afraid of Coach Bryant and just what he demanded of us and the excellence on the field play and not doing bonehead stuff. Man, I took that to the highest level, and so I just had this real reverence and when I say fear, I'm just, man,
right.
I just had a tremendous respect for the way Coach Bryant wanted the game to be played,
and you didn't want to disappoint him.
That's correct.
And I was just mad because I done ran all the way over here. I'm like, look, somebody getting hit.
Yeah.
So, but everybody always speaks of Coach Bryant in such a high light. Everyone who I talked to, every interview or just had a casual conversation, we always said that he respected his players. He treated them like men. He made sure that he treated you to the best of his ability, and that when you walked out of his program, you were the best man that you could be. And a lot of players always say that's the kind of coach that I want to play for. A coach who's going to respect me. He's not going to talk. He's not going to dog talk me. He's not going to do stuff to me and run me in the dirt.
Amen.
So that's why I think so many people respect him and hold him in that light, is from the way he treated his players. And, honestly, I think a lot of times I would love to have played for him, just from
you would have loved
talk
it.
About it.
Marvin, if you were a hard worker, if you didn't want somebody to give you something and you just looking for opportunity and you was going to put the grind in, you would have loved Coach Bryant. Because for instance, I'm a freshman in 1979. It's tour days in August. Real tour days back then, Anyway, so you got a whole month of tour days in back then, and we got about 2 weeks in. So I'm coming in from practice, and I got this pink sticky note on my locker, and it said, "Coach Bryant want to see you." I'm sitting there like, well, man, I don't want to see him. I'm scared. I'm like, man, what have I done? Now, if you remember, that 79 team went on to win the national championship. And we had won it in 78. So those guys were returning national champions. And that team was loaded. Here I am, a freshman. And so I get this note. I go up to third floor, Coleman Coliseum. Secretary said, have a seat. He'll be with you in a minute. Long minute, man. I'm like, oh, my goodness. Anyway, door opens up. She said, you can go on in. I go in. Coach Bryant's sitting there at his desk. And I can remember this like it was yesterday. He's smoking one of them Chesterfields. And, he had that old Southern drawl. When he talked, you had to listen very closely. He murmured some words, sit on the couch. He had that black and white checkered couch. There weren't no legs on that couch. So when you sat out, your bottom hit the floor, you was looking up at it. And this is what he said. He says, Jeremiah, you can play here at the University of Alabama. And when he said it, I'm thinking, yes, when my turn comes. I'm behind a 6'2", 200-pound NFL prototype named Don McNeil. He got to get out of there first. And this was his next words. He said, you could play this year. I tell people I went in there 5'9", I came out 6'9". But I'm walking out of the door. Coach Bryant took about 10 minutes with me. I'm heading out the door, and this is what he says. He says, you see the door right there? He said, that door is always open. If you ever have a problem, don't you hesitate to come knock on that door. And so his ability to connect heart to heart with his players, I just haven't met any. He had a wisdom about him when it came to people. His ability to connect with people was tremendous, and he connected with his players, and that's what he did with me. And I left out of there, saying Coach Bryant cares about me, not as a player, but as a person. And from there on, man, it's just he's asked you to jump. It's how high, coach. It's how high, and that's the wisdom that I think he led his players with that type of wisdom.
When you play for a coach like that, it molds you and it shapes you into the man that you are, the great individual that you are. So what was your inspiration for putting on your event in December? What was your inspiration for, and what was the end goal for? And I hate I missed it. If I wasn't down and out, I would have been there. But what was it that made you say, okay, I want to do this event? What was your vision? And
if you're around me 7 days in a week, I'm talking about Coach Bryant, 5 of them, at least. Because my philosophy on life, I got a lot of my philosophy on life I got from Coach Bryant. I was one of those players. I'm sitting on the front row when Coach Bryant come in the meeting room, man. I'm taking notes on everything he's saying because I'm trying to do something with my life. I got people back home depending. I got a alcoholic mother depending on me to make something out of my life. So, man, my 4 years, hey, bro, I don't have time to be lollygagging around. I don't have. And so, Coach Bryant, his philosophy, I listen to every word. So, to this very day, his impact on my life, and so when the opportunity for when I started just researching and finding that the 2021 season was the 50th year for integrated football at Alabama. 1971 was the first year that Black players played at the University of Alabama, and those two players was John Mitchell and Wilbur Jackson. The indebtedness in my heart for Coach Bryant, the University of Alabama, I'm eternally indebted. Now, some players don't feel that way. Okay, I do, because his philosophy and the opportunity. I don't go to the NFL. I don't get that chance. I don't get drafted in the 3rd round without the opportunity the university gave me as a student athlete. We start right there, And so what I wanted to do, Marvin, I wanted to say thank you back to the University of Alabama and to the Bryant family and to the honorees that had paved the way, those Black players that came and they opened the door. They took on things that by the time I've gotten there, 8 years later, things were smoother. Things were better. And then subsequently, all of, by the time you get there. And so how do we not say thank you to the University of Alabama? How do we not say thank you to the Bryant family? How do we not say thank you to those honorees? And you look at the national championships that have come out of. I played on Coach Bryant's last national championship, which was 1979. So in the decade of the 70s, when he was integrating, he won 3 national championships with integrated teams and was the first coach to win 100 games in a decade. And that decade was the 1970s when he integrated. So, brother, my words, Marvin, is I'm eternally indebted to the University of Alabama, the Bryant family, and those honorees. And so I couldn't sit by on my watch knowing 50 years was going to come up on this and not do anything.
Well, I will say this. I seen the pictures, and it was beyond amazing. Beautiful. Everybody who I talked to said that they had a great time. And I was so miserable that I couldn't walk to be there, because it was a few days before my knee replacement. But literally every picture I seen, I was nothing but smiles, people dressed to the T. I mean, it looked like it was one amazing event. And no words I have can really express what I'm about to say, but I'm going to try to say it the best I can. That was beyond big of you to do that event. Because there's not a lot of people who would have stepped up to the plate to even take on the task. There's not a lot of people who would even celebrate the fact that these players were the first ones to come on board to integrate this team, to give all of us the opportunity to play. Not a lot of people would have even championed that. So let alone to champion and to turn it into the great event that it was. I'm going to tell you, it's a lot of guys looking forward to the next one already. We're just waiting for the call or the invite. Like, when's the next one?
we are planning it as we speak, Marvin. We're planning the next one because the decade of the 70s was a powerful time in Alabama football, and we want people to remember that. We want to continue to remember that. But I was going to say, one of the things that motivate me, and people have heard me tell my story. See, after I got drafted, I was able to put my mother in rehab, and she came out sober and with a relationship with the Lord, and she lived that way for the next 35 years.
Wow. So
now you see why I say I'm eternally indebted. And my mother got a chance to come back and watch her grandsons play at the University of Alabama. And spend the next 30 something. So, man, it's just really only God could write a script like that. The script of my life, only the Lord could have written that script that my mother would get a chance to see her, because she didn't come when I was playing. My mother was not in shape to get to my games, and she was in a whole nother world. And when the Lord sobered her up, man, she did a 180-degree turn and was the best supporter for her grandsons that of any grandmother that could be. So that's just and so for me, I'm like, look at what all this opportunity gave me. And those 3 entities that I've named is the reason for that. And so I had to, man, not, as I say, Marvin, not on my watch. I was going to do what I needed to do to make that thing happen.
Listen, you don't understand how miserable I was not being able to attend. Like, I had made my reservation at the hotel. I was ready, not knowing that I would be coming to Birmingham around that same time for a different reason, though. But now that I'm fixed up and I'm back, almost back to normal, I will not miss the next one. I don't care what's going on in the world. I am going to find my way there.
Hey, well, kind of what we have
over.
planned for the next one, Marvin, Justin, is we brought in the first 5 signing classes in the 70s for Coach Bryant. The kind of the plan is we'll bring in the next 5 classes of African Americans.
Well, awesome. I will be there, because without all of you guys doing what you did, there wouldn't have been a me and all of us,
Right.
Just like I know, the 70s in Alabama was a very still turbulent time, you had all these different laws passed, but a lot of people weren't observing said laws still.
I got a question. What was it like, speaking of that era, Caleb was able to roll with one of those guys, Tony Nathan, who was part of that era. What was it like seeing him play Tony Nathan through your eyes?
Well, and that was like, 2014? And
Yeah.
I think God used, because I went down and I watched them shoot some of the movie in Inslee. And, I watched this, like one of the scenes where Coach Bryant came to recruit Tony.
Yeah.
And so it just, to see how Coach Bryant took a personal interest in integration. And so, in 2014, whenever that was being filmed, I went over and I watched them do some of the filming of it. And it really made me realize, man, things were not easy. It wasn't just, and, guys like Tony Nathan and them making think of the courage. That's my word, the courage that it took. Said, man, we're going to be the first ones. And, when you watch the movie, they show some of when integration was coming about, some of the violence that was some of the kickback. And you start saying to yourself, man, for me, I just saluted. I'm like, man, I have the utmost respect for these guys and the class that they show, the character that they show, how they handle themselves in the midst of that adversity. And so Tony Nathan is one of those guys and so my son getting a chance to play that role, it really gave me a little bit more insight on just what they had to go through personally.
I got a question.
Whatever you need me for this next time around, I'm there.
I do have a question from the audience.
Busting tables, folding up chairs. Call me.
I got a question from the audience, and it happens to come from one of your other sons. Tim Castille wants to know why you made his sons run 5 miles to go get haircuts when they were 5 and 6 years old.
So that's what happened to Tim Nees. He was running to get haircuts at a young age.
Hey, Marvin, wait a minute. Now, don't put that on me. Justin, I said something earlier that philosophically, I'm telling you, Coach Bryant, if he said it, brother, I took it to the bank. I'm sitting there. So when Tim and Simeon were real young, and they came to me and they said, Dad, we want to play football. Now I wasn't going to force them to play, but they came to me, and said, we want to play. So, well, first thing is you got to prepare. Again, right, Marvin? It's all about preparation. You guys want to play. I'm fixing to show you the price that you got to pay if you really want to play the game. So we had this barbershop about 5 or 6 miles from our house where I took them to get their haircuts. So I played for Coach Bryant, bro. You sit and talk to any guy play for Coach Bryant, he gonna tell you, bro, it was some days you thought you was gonna die. Literally.
Right.
Dude, I can't take another step, man. I believe I'm finna. And Coach Bryant, he knew it too, because he been to me and said, man, you ain't gotta be scared of dying. You pass out before you die. He tell you, hey, bro, I'm gonna take you to the brink today. You gonna feel like you're gonna die. And so anyway, so I just took that to say, okay, if my sons are gonna play this game, they're gonna learn what the price is that it takes to play it. So I told my wife, I said, hey, we got a little rendezvous spot about 5 miles down the road. I'm gonna take them and you just meet us there, okay? And you pick us up. And so so Coach Bryant had this saying. I mean, literally all this Coach Bryant had this saying. He come in, he said, men, expect the unexpected. in a game that happens.
Right.
Things gonna happen that you're not expecting. How do you adjust? Right. Anyway, so I wait till 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning. They good sleep. I go knock on their door. Dad, what you want? I said, get your running shoes on. They're like, where we going? I said, don't worry about that.
Oh my God.
So I make them put their running shoes on, and man, we just trek. We trek out. We got about a 5-mile route. We get a couple of miles in, and they be behind me. And man, I hear this.
Did you have a golden retriever with you?
And I'm still in top shape back then, man. Man, 5 miles, man, that ain't nothing for me. So I look back, they be crying. I said, man, I don't mind you crying, just don't stop. You cry all you want to, but not stop. You better keep picking them up, putting them down, baby. And what I would do is wait to different times. So I might wait 2-3 days, a week, and I go knock on the door again. Dad, what you want? Get your running shoes on, man.
I'm glad my daddy had a bad back. My God.
Yeah, no, right.
And what did the barber say when y'all showed up all hot and sweaty?
Yeah.
He trying to cut their hair.
Tim is
nasty, cape sweaty, got hair sticking to it.
Tim was emphasizing once again, I was 6 years old.
What Tim is trying to say is that was our torture back then.
Hey, what would DHR think of that today?
Tim say he was in Olympic sprinter fitness in 6 years old.
Hey, I tell you, Marvin, as a parent, my philosophy was, I will not have lazy children.
You achieved that.
One thing you don't know how to do is work.
One of the things one of my friends always say, and I wholeheartedly agree with this, is motivated people don't like lazy people, and lazy people don't like motivated people. And that is so true. And I find if I'm around somebody who late, I'm just gonna walk off because I can't take it. I can't take it.
Jeremiah, you talk about a lot of Coach Bryant's victories, and one of those that really sticks out in the minds of Alabama fans was win number 315, and coincidentally, it was against Auburn. I think that was 10 straight. Was that right? But what was the atmosphere like when y'all captured win number 315 and allowing Coach Bryant to become the all-time winningest coach in football history at that point?
It's one of those where you want it, again, because of your relationship. Man, I can tell you, brother, I truly love Coach Bryant. I love my coach, man. And I would lay it on the line. A lot of times people say, man, why you hit like you hit? Why you be trying to take it? Man, I was an extension of Coach Bryant and his passion for what he did. Coach Bryant could motivate. I had his ability to motivate you. And so that game was, hey, we get a chance to be a part of history. Mm-hmm. Bro, what do we got to do to make this happen? What do we got to do? And it just so happened it was against Auburn, but it wouldn't have really, I don't, and that's a rivalry, but it wouldn't have mattered who it was based on what we were trying to accomplish with Coach Bryant, in that we loved him enough to say, Coach, we want this for you. And we're going to do whatever it takes. And it just so happened it was a rival game against Auburn University.
Right. And his last game and your last game was arguably like one of your best, the Liberty Bowl, 1982. You picked off 3 passes, and really it seemed like it was a whole lot more than that because you were in on every play, every pass deflection. Can you take us through that last game for both you and him?
That last game, Justin, I tell you what, right before captains were to go out, I got this strong prompting to get up and say something. And I hadn't done that in the 4 years I've been at Alabama. I don't talk. I just go do what I'm supposed to do. You know, hey, coach,
right.
Execute. I'm not I wasn't a person that talked. I wasn't that type of player. I wasn't verbally a verbal leader. I was just, anyway, so this strong prompt, we're sitting there, man, captain's getting ready to go out, and this prompting is in my gut. And it's strong. I'm talking about like, you got to get up and say something. And I'm fighting this thing, and it's you don't get up and say something, you're going to throw up. I'm going to get sick. That's how strong it was. Right. So, man, I just kind of nervously just raised my hand, coach, you know, in front of coach. Coach, can I say something? And he nodded. He had that big old Parker coat on. He nodded. Yeah, and when I got up, it just started coming out. Just all of how I felt. I said, Coach, I just want to thank you. Everything you did for me. Me coming here 4 years ago. I said, Coach, I came here 4 years ago as an 18-year-old boy. But tonight, I'm leaving as a 21-year-old man. And I want to thank you for that. And I said, Coach, ain't no way we're going to lose this game tonight. I said, we ain't losing this game tonight. I said, if I got to play this game, we ain't lose. Man, that thing just struck a fire. Everybody, it just lit our team up. And so emotionally, so what you saw in that game, I expressed in the locker room before we came out. So I was just telling people, I said, man, if it moved that night, I was trying to knock it out. There was no way
you're right.
You're going to lose that game that night. And he meant that much to me as a person, as a coach, and someone that I had a relationship with. And so that night, I just, man, I was just feeling it, man. You know, I think I caused 4 turnovers. Our defense had like 6 turnovers in that game, and I had 3 interceptions and 1 caused fumble. And wow. That last caused fumble was the play that won the game because Mike Martin catches that ball. He catches it, and I hit him about the 5-yard line. They're driving into. We were up 21-15. And if they score there, they go on to beat us with an extra point kick.
Speaking of fumbles, I want to ask this last question for all the Broncos fans who may be watching. You were involved in another fumble, famous, one of the top plays in NFL history. It was against the Browns in the AFC Championship. They were driving to possibly tie the game, and this is to get to the Super Bowl. Can you talk about the fumble, one of the most recognized plays in your career, but also in Broncos history?
Well, man, all of that go back to how I was taught to play the game at Alabama. On defense, under Coach Donahue, it's all about turnovers. How do you create turnovers? And so that's why I was always thinking, if they put the ball in there, I'm going to pick it off. You just talk turnovers and calls fumble. And actually, you know, I didn't start that game. I was a backup to Steve Wilson. He was the starting corner. But what it is, it's God answered a prayer that I prayed early in the week. I had just come to Denver. That was my first year there, coming from my 5th year in the league with Tampa Bay. And I got released from Tampa Bay that Monday on doing preseason, and Denver picked me up off a waiver. So I got out there and I was trying to learn their system, and we get into the playoffs and just said a prayer during the week. Hey, Lord, I sure would like to get in that game and make something happen. Well, The fourth quarter of that game, Steve Wilson caught a cramp in his calf. Couldn't go back in the game, and Joe called. I'm sitting on the sideline, just, it's cold in January, Denver, man. I'm trying to stay warm. And he says, Jeremiah, yeah, you in the game? Like Mr. Brown, me? I'm in the game. And yeah, bud. Steve can't go back in, so I go in the game. They're driving down, probably 5 minutes to go, 6, 7 minutes, somewhere in there. They drive down, and they score a touchdown on me. And Webster Slaughter catches a quick slant. I was supposed to have help inside by the safety, man. You know how that goes. And you sitting there, man, all your homeboys looking at you get beat on for a touchdown. And I'm like, man, it was really, I had zero coverage with help inside, playing hard outside. It's amazing how you can still remember this stuff decades later, plays and what was called. So they score, bring the game within one score to tie it. They kick the ball off to our offense. We don't do anything with it. We punt it back to them, and Bernie Kosar and Earnest Byner and Kevin Mack show just big boom. Boy, they start driving. They driving. 20, 30, 40, 50, 40, 30, 20, 10, 6-yard line. About a minute and 30 seconds to go. They get the ball on the 6-yard line. They score. They can tie the game up. We go in the overtime or whatever. And they call the same defensive play they called when I got beat. And, my attitude, like, man, why did they call that play again? Yeah. I was mad they called that play. I'm like, man, what they call this play for, man? That play, I got beat last time on that play. And I'm lining up on Webster Slaughter again, the same receiver. It's zero coverage. I got man, pretty much all by myself, and I go up and I'm playing man bump on the 6-yard line. And I line up to run the play. And to be honest with you, Justin and Marvin, it's like God slowed time down.
Wow.
And in my thoughts, I'm like, man, last time you lined up like this, you got beat for a touchdown. Don't you think you need to do something different?
Yep.
Right.
I backed off of it. I backed off of him right in the end zone, just a hard 5-6 yard cushion. Anything quick, man, I can hit it, And they snap the ball, and Bernie gives it to Earnest Byner. So I could see the play develop early on. It's a run. Instead of, if I'd have been in man bump, he would have ran me off. And so I beat Webster Slaughter on the block where he was coming to block me. And Ernest and I meet on the 2-yard line. I'm on the 2-yard line. And if you ever seen Earnest Byner, man, that's a man right there, bro. He was toting it, and we on 2-yard line. And again, it's like God slows time down. What you gonna do? I mean, all of this is boom, boom, but in my mind, it still amazes me to the day I had time to think what to do. And so Ernest had ran over everybody on our defense in that second half. He scored like 3 touchdowns, just boom, boom, boom. And I'm like, man, dude, number one, I don't want to even hit this big old fella. And I'm sitting there, when you do those strip drills all the time in practice, and he's so close to scoring, it's almost like he's starting to release pressure off of the ball. My eye caught it. And just boom, boom. Hey, man, next thing, man, hit that ball. So I went from, well, I'm going to tackle this guy to when he just kind of was going to ease up on the ball a little bit as though he was going to raise it. Mm-hmm. My eye caught it, and I just went, boom. And I fall right there on the 2-yard line. And with that kind of impact, usually that ball will scoop through the end zone. The ball was just right there, right on, just
wow,
my left side. And I just rolled over on top of it. As I tell people, about 2 tons of Cleveland Browns on top of it. Man, if you could have stuck a mic up in that pile,
Right?
You heard some colorful language.
I think you're responsible for breaking the Browns because they weren't the same since and hadn't been for you.
Well, that was how that all of that play unfolded, and
Right.
we got a chance to go to the Super Bowl that year. So I tell people it was a prayer answered.
That's awesome.